Good morning, class. I'm Larry Heron, and I'm a friend of Presley's. And she invited me to speak a little bit today because I'm a budding author, and I do write. And Presley read this book of mine, and at her age, that's quite a feat. So she wanted me to speak a little bit about writing today for the class. So I'm Larry Heron. I'm an engineer. I graduated from Kettering University in Flint, Michigan, and my master's at Western Kentucky University. One thing, in order to write, you have to be educated to write, and I focused on my education. So that's very important. Keep that in mind. You should like to learn. So why would I write? Well, obviously writing for anyone is you've got to write down your thoughts. We all have thoughts. We all think, and we think about things that others don't think about. So we need to pick out what we think is important and write about them. Now, when we write, we need to keep in mind that every word means something. Words mean things. That's a key ingredient to writing. And a series of words, that's called writing. So writing is to present what you're thinking or your ideas, your own ideas. You know, not ideas of others, but what goes on in your own head. And we all have things going on in our heads, and I'm sure you do too. So you may think what you are thinking and what you want to write about is not important, but surely it will be to someone. So I write about creation. Now, why would I do that? Why me? I always wondered, why me? Why do I exist? So even as a child, I would lay down in the sun at 5, 6, 7 years old, and I would look up into the universe and think, why me in this large expanse? So I like to write about things like that. Why me? Why do I exist? Well, at your age, I wondered about the universe. It is so huge and it goes on forever. And why is that? So I like to consider that. I think about it quite a bit. Normally when I sleep is when I think the most. As I wake up, then I have thoughts on my mind, and I get up sometimes at 3 a.m. and write down what I was thinking. So that's what writers do. You do need a quiet place to write. Now, I said I think in bed, but I actually write in my study. I'm here in my study right now. The door is closed. There's nothing that can interfere with my thoughts. And this is where I like to write because it makes it easier to write when your mind is clear. So before you start writing, you need to clear your mind of all things. So you need a quiet place to think and write. That is very, very important. Now, anyone can write, because everyone thinks and everyone has ideas. So if you think and have ideas, you should want to share those thoughts and ideas with others. And guess what? Others have the same thoughts and ideas, so they might be interested in what you have to say. Now, you must be educated to express your thoughts. It's easy to have the thoughts, but to express them, you need your education. You need to learn how to write, how to construct sentences, and so forth. That's very, very important to be a writer. So although at this time, English and grammar may seem tedious and boring, you need that to express yourself. And to express yourself correctly, you need to do what the teacher teaches you to do. So that's very important. Now, anyone can be published nowadays. There's something called Kindle online where you can take your thoughts and write them down and be published, even if you're a poor writer. So nobody knows if they're a poor writer unless people express joy at what they write, or else you sell books. So that's the true test, is whether you interest other people or not. Now, anybody can be published, like I said, but few books are actually read. There are so many books out there that we're all in competition to have others to read our books. So what we write, it must be interesting to the reader. You cannot write about boring things unless it's in a occupation or something like that. It has to interest someone. So I try to pick an audience for each one of my books that the subject would interest them. Now, to be honest, the famous people are the most read. If you're famous, it's easy to get people to read your books. So we can be famous to be read, or on the other hand, if we're read, we can become famous, and that's pretty hard to do. Most of the time, only the famous are well read, so there are very few nowadays that become famous because they're writers. It's for other reasons. But both are hard either way. But you cannot fail or succeed unless you try. So try your hand at writing. It's difficult. It's difficult to clear your mind, but it's possible. Now, a clear mind means clear thoughts. You can't have your mind all jumbled up in different things and expect to have clear thoughts. For instance, I do not listen to any music while I'm thinking. I try to focus on my thoughts and get away from the world. So keep your minds clear to discern right from wrong, or true or false, or what's interesting or not interesting. And a clear mind fronts clear books and well-read books. So with that, I've written 9 books. I brought a sample here. I've already mentioned one Presley read, and it's for young adults up to adulthood. And it's to teach vocabulary primarily as well as doctrine. Both are important, but a vocabulary is being able to provide a message clearly with the fewest words possible. So you don't have to use big words in order to have a good vocabulary, but words that mean the ideas that you get across. So a good vocabulary is what you learn at school, and that's important. And my other book is a history book, one of the others, and it's Building the Dream, and it's a history of the Corvette plant. But obviously I'm an engineer, and I worked for Corvette for 24 years, so who better to write a book about it than somebody with experience? So you also write about things you experience, again, that might be interesting to others. And I go back to the creation, and I do consider the creation quite a bit, and this is on the origin of man and the universe. I still wonder about that. It's a never-ending question. So with that, I hope this was sufficient for your class time, and I hope you learned something about it, and that some of you may want to be writers. And there may not be much money in it in the beginning, but if you do a good job, then there will be money in it as well. But everyone wants to share their ideas. And with that, I thank Presley, and I thank you all for listening.